And look, this is hard stuff, right? Like, you're not competing just against sports in our country. You're also competing with soccer around the world.
Landon Donovan. It's Landon Donovan. Donovan has it. From hope, there is glory.
Landon Donovan. What's up, man?
In my opinion, the best investment you can make in probably anywhere in sports right now is the NWSL, because it's still relatively inexpensive and the trajectory is incredible.
I want to ask you a little bit more about MLS. Where do you feel like that league stands in terms of reputation, seriousness?
What Don Garber has had to navigate through time is making the league as relevant as possible, and the league has gotten a lot better. The problem is the perception still remains that the league is what it was before.
Today on Portfolio Players, I sit down with the U.S. soccer legend Landon Donovan. He's had a successful post-career in media and television. He's got a new book out. He's a minority owner in the soccer club Lincoln City, and we talk all about the World Cup coming to the U.S. and what it could mean for soccer fandom. Welcome back to Portfolio Players, presented by E-Trade from Morgan Stanley. I'm Dan Roberts here at Front Office Sports in New York, and today we've got the soccer legend, Landon Donovan. What's up, man?
Legend, huh?
Sure.
Thanks, Dan.
Legend.
Appreciate
We
that.
don't throw it around lightly. Let's talk about the World Cup, obviously. Let's start there. World Cup coming to the U.S., North America, I should say. How big is that for fandom? Because I've been asking everyone from the soccer world this. We hear a lot, obviously, from soccer people about how this is going to create this big tail effect after the World Cup has passed of minting new soccer fans in the U.S. And I'm a little skeptical about whether you can convert someone who doesn't right now care about soccer and make them a lifelong soccer fan now just from one World Cup.
Okay, so that's one level. Let me give you an anecdote for me. I did care about soccer growing up, but I didn't know anything about the soccer world writ large, right? So in '94, the World Cup came to our shores. I was 12 years old. First soccer game I ever went to was Argentina-Romania in the Rose Bowl in the round of 16 or quarterfinals. And I was like, whoa, what is this? I had no idea that existed. Now, are we going to get that this summer? No, not in the same way. Like, most people have some awareness about soccer, or that there's a pro league here, or that all. But there will be people who are sort of casual fans who turn it on and watch and see some amazing moment and go, I really want to be that. So it's hard to quantify because we don't know what that's going to look like. There was a quantifiable measure from '94 because in '96, Major League Soccer was created. This time, there's not going to be that sort of level, but anecdotally, we will know over time, over the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, more soccer fans will be created, and you'll see the uptick continue.
And to be fair, more soccer fans have been created in the U.S. big time in the last few years or last couple decades. You could point to MLS, but also I think more even American fans of international soccer. I mean, I call it international because outside the U.S. But
correct.
I remember covering when some of these European teams opened their first office in the U.S.
Yep.
And they were trying to grow their American fan bases. I actually think like Bayern Munich might have been the first
one.
one.
Here in New York.
Yeah, and we've seen a real growth in that. I mean, how important is that aspect of it, the non-U.S. teams coming in and having these like U.S. fan clubs?
Well, it tells you how ripe the market is, right? And they all want to be here. And so the other thing is every weekend morning, you can now turn on your TV or go to your app or your whatever streaming service and watch soccer from around the world. And that's the difference between soccer and other sports is it's not just in this country, right? There are a plethora of leagues throughout the world that you can watch and be a fan of. There was a very recent study, take it with a grain of salt, but what sport are people most interested in watching in America? Of course, it was the NFL 1, basketball 2, but for the first time ever, soccer was 3, ahead of baseball and hockey. And that's not, again, just Major League Soccer, that's soccer writ large, but you're seeing the change, right? And again, this is anecdotal. When I go to school to pick up my kids, the sport I see more jerseys of them wearing are soccer jerseys, not football jerseys, not basketball jerseys, not baseball jerseys. All the kids love to it now. Again, it's just an anecdote, but it does tell you there's been a change.
So how important is the U.S. men's team being good in this World Cup to whether we mint new soccer fans?
Every step of the way in a World Cup, from my experience, every step you go further in the tournament, the attention is exponentially greater. So if, I'm just making this up, if 5 million people are watching the first game, then 7, then 9, and you get to a knockout, now it's 15, and then it's 20, and then it's 30, and then it's 70, and it just gets exponentially greater. So in my opinion, the two things that need to happen are a deep-ish run into the tournament that keeps people going and with the U.S. team, and or some iconic moments that grab you and hook you and go, oh my God, what an amazing moment.
So how realistic is a deep run?
I think it's very realistic. One, because of our group. Without getting too much into the weeds, there are 12 groups, and there is a seeded team, first seeded team in each group, meaning you can't play any of the top 11 teams if you're the U.S. So we're not playing any of those teams, and then you're getting filled in with other teams. So not only do we have a good chance to get out of our group, we should finish first in our group, which then pairs you in the next round with a third place team from another group. That game we should win, and then you go from there. Then you start hitting the big boys, but it is very possible that we do very well.
We've had a number of guests in that seat who are invested in some way in the NWSL. And the one I just interviewed, Asia Grazioli-Veneer, she was on the board of Juventus, helped launch Juventus Women's. She's an investor in the Washington Spirit. She said that, her take is that soccer fandom in the U.S. has risen largely thanks to women's soccer specifically. What do you make of that?
I agree. We live in one of the few countries where it is truly equal to participate, or mostly equal to participate in men's or women's side of any sport. And the women's national team in particular has carried soccer for a long time. Now, the men have been there and there's interest in it and a lot of people watch, but their success, I just talked about long runs into tournaments, they're always getting deep into the Olympics or winning, deep into the World Cup or winning, and that captures people and captures audience. So I think she's right. What Michelle King has done with her at the Washington Spirit is phenomenal. The amount of money they are investing into women's sports is phenomenal to see, and long may it continue.
You are invested in an English club, Lincoln City.
Yep.
How'd that come about?
Really interestingly, so through an agent that I knew who was helping us find players when I was coaching in San Diego, brought Lincoln City as an investment to me and said, do you know anybody? And I had gotten to know a family, the Jabara family in San Diego, who have a very small piece of the Padres, gotten to know them really well. And he said to me, hey, if there's ever something that comes across your desk, can you bring it to me and let me know? He started doing the due diligence, met the owner, Clive Nates, who is a phenomenal, phenomenal human being, South African, got to know the club, and he fell in love with it. He invested, and then he said, can you invest some with me? And I said, I brought it to you. What else do you need? But I wanted to be a part of it, and I love it because I have the opportunity to have conversations. I'm not having any meaningful impact, but give some insight that sometimes helps them. Definitely helps Harvey, the guy, because he's a baseball guy. So he'll call me and say, I didn't understand what happened. And I can explain it to him and walk him through. But it's been amazing. And knock on wood, they're in first place right now in League One, far ahead of second and third. And looks like they're going to get promoted to the English Championship, which would be amazing for everyone. So hopefully that happens.
So you mentioned the Jaberas obviously owning a piece of the Padres. My next question would be, you going to get in there and try and get a piece of the Padres?
Yeah, somehow? I'm going to buy the whole thing. You're paying for it, right? No, well, I shouldn't say no. You never know.
Yeah.
But back to your point about women's soccer, in my opinion, the best investment you can make in probably anywhere in sports right now is the NWSL, because it's still relatively inexpensive and the trajectory is incredible. And it reminds me a lot of where MLS was probably a decade ago. Reminds me of the 70s and 80s where the NBA and NFL were. And if you got in at that time, your investment is certainly worthwhile. So I think it's an incredible investment. The baseball will continue to grow and be good, but I think it's an incredible investment.
So you're going to get into the NWSL? I mean, feel free to break
That's
a little news
question here. No, there's no breaking news, but anywhere, anywhere between the NWSL, MLS, what I think is lacking, and this is my opinion, it's easy for me to say in my seat. I think a lot of ownership groups get into sports and they don't really understand the sport. So they have technical directors and coaches, but owners aren't generally very, very knowledgeable about the sport. And I think, I'm a huge Raider fan. What the Raiders have done with Tom Brady, I think is brilliant. Now, how much influence he has, I don't know.
It hasn't worked yet, right?
Well, it will over time. He just started, right? And it takes time so I think it's really smart for people to have either former players or agents or people who really understand the sport at a deep level to help advise and help them at least just understand what's going on, because you have a working relationship with the GM or the technical director. And, there's politics there and there's how you're managing it and all that. But somebody who you can trust with you, I think is a really good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask it. It obviously makes sense to have an actual player, someone like you, involved, even if it's only marginally. In the ownership group, we had Gareth Bale do this series. He wants to buy his hometown team of Cardiff. But we also see this trend of other, I don't want to say random, but celebrities, either former athletes in other sports or in some cases even Hollywood actors who are becoming owners. I like to say everyone right now wants to own a piece of a sports team, any sports team.
Agreed.
But it really runs the gamut. And in most cases, it's really just we get a little bit of extra exposure because people see Will Ferrell at the game.
And fair enough, right? Like there's value to that. But then why wouldn't you have someone who actually knows some piece of the sport and can understand it and just you're not changing the world, but there might be marginal ways you can help.
I want to ask you a little bit more about MLS. You know, I've covered the growth of that league, and obviously, like, it has expanded at such a fast clip. Now the NWSL is also expanding, and the expansion fees in the NWSL are going up like crazy. But I think to this day, even with all the growth and, you know, all the success that Don Garber has had with that business, you have people who look at MLS and they say, well, the valuations are just crazy. I mean, some of these teams still lose money. And obviously with MLS, there's an uphill battle that I feel like they'll always face, and that is that the talent starts internationally. And obviously the reputation was people go to MLS to kind of wind down their career. Now you won a bunch of MLS Cups, but where do you feel like that league stands in terms of reputation, seriousness?
So that's a great question. So one of the challenges with MLS, and look, this is hard stuff, right? Like you're not competing just against sports in our country, you're also competing with soccer around the world, right? For eyeballs and attention.
Biggest sport in the world.
So what Don Garber has had to navigate through time, which honestly, if I look at it objectively, he's done a really good job, is making the league as relevant as possible by bringing in some of these big name stars. They're not coming at 20 years ago. They're not coming here when they're 25. They're going to stay in Europe where all the money is, all the attention, the best competition. It's starting to change, and it's not going to change overnight. Lionel Messi, yes, was at the end of his career, but he's still performing at a really high level. And if you look around the league, there are now lots of players who are in their prime. They're not mega stars like Messi, but they are good players, and the league has gotten a lot better. The problem is the perception still remains that the league is what it was before, and now the league has improved significantly. I actually think this summer, forget about the fans and growing the sport with kids. I think owners of MLS teams are going to have these games in their stadia, and they're going to look at it and say, oh my God, look at this. And I want this, and I want these kind of eyeballs. They have the ability to spend the money, right? To bring in players of this quality. Can you lure guys like Messi or guys like Erling Haaland or people who are at the top of their game and bring them here and continue with all the other grassroots stuff to make the league better and better?
I like this take a lot. So MLS will get better players as a direct result of MLS team owners hosting World Cup games.
It could. I think if you're an owner and look, they're somewhat knowledgeable. It's what we just talked about, but they don't have intimate knowledge deeply. If David Beckham can watch a game with Jorge Mas, and look, they're bringing in amazing players, but he can say, look at this kid from Turkey, right, that you didn't know anything about. And this is a high quality player who's playing in the Bundesliga. Let's go get him, right? And that maybe he's not a superstar, but makes the league a lot better. And I think that's possible that could happen.
What do you think about MLS's Apple TV deal? Much criticized due to availability.
Again, not in it, so context matters, but I'm going to I know enough to be dangerous. I had a really good conversation with Don Garber. Tim Howard and I have a podcast that we do every week, and he said it really interestingly. He said, look, Landon, when we do something that's new, that's novel, we do it and then we evaluate and we see if we made mistakes, what we did well, whatever. He said, putting it behind a second paywall proved to be the wrong idea. And he said, with Apple TV, as long as now you have Apple TV, you can watch the games for free. And we had to adjust, and we saw what the market said, and we listened. My thing is, I don't think MLS is mature enough yet to go away from the NBCs and the Foxes and ABCs and the linear television. I think we still need that exposure. I mean, even the NFL still does it. The NFL could go all streaming if they want. They still decide.
I think they might.
They might eventually, or they might slowly trickle towards it. but they're smart enough to know like we need the big media engines to help keep promoting our sport. And MLS, of course, needs to do that too.
You mentioned the podcasts and then your time on Fox. Let's talk about the second act in media, because a lot of guests on this series. We had Logan Ryan and Brian Hoyer. I realize I'm naming a lot of former Patriots guys, but they all end up in media. Yeah, well, but there's something there. But I think for the longest time that was sort of the default. But a lot of people discover I can't necessarily be as good on media. Just because you know about the sport and you were good at the sport doesn't mean that you are natural on TV. What has been your experience in your
that
second
I was
act?
not natural on TV at first. It's very difficult, and there are so many. Like I can get into so many pieces of it, but the one overlap is preparation helps you. So if you prepared well as an athlete and you now prepare well in TV, you can probably get there. I see so many people come into this and go, oh, just show up and we'll talk about it. It doesn't work that way. Like you need to be prepared, and people learn that lesson quick because you end up looking like a fool on TV, right? So preparation is key. I really enjoy it now. When I was playing, doing interviews, like I did it but it was just a sap on my time and it was exhausting. Now I love it because I get to help educate people about the sport. And World Cup's really interesting because you will have, let's say I'm making this up, 10 million people watch the first US game, or 20 million people. 20% of those people are diehard, super hardcore soccer fans, know the sport, and you need to speak to them. But 80% of the people don't know what offside is, and you need to be able to speak to them too. And so there's this really fine line in how you talk about the sport. It's probably like a Super Bowl for Tom Brady, right? He's trying to navigate these new people who are just watching for the commercials and maybe the game versus the diehard football fans. And how do you navigate that? And that's a skill.
Are there people in media that you either spoke to when you were starting out or have looked at since as models? Like they've done it right.
I watch a lot of sports. I love sports. I think a guy who does it really, really well, John Smoltz, I think is excellent. I love, like when I watch baseball games, I learn from him, and he's talking really through a pitcher's lens, but he's thinking about how to get the pitcher off or the batter off balance and what they're thinking. And I'm just fascinated to listen to that. Greg Olson, I think, is phenomenal. I love the way he approaches it. It's been, it's really fun for us to get to watch other sports and listen and learn. And those are kind of two guys I would say I try to model myself after when I'm calling games.
When you talk about casual fans and soccer, I wanted to tell you a story. My wife was in England years and years ago, and she told me to ask you about this. Never forgot it. She went to see an Everton game, and you were on loan to Everton.
Oh, when I was there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool.
You scored a goal, and she said the whole place did USA, USA
That's
chanting.
awesome.
I don't know
That's
the exact
awesome.
date. She had another date, but I just thought that's got to be one of the best moments you can have, right?
The crazy thing, Dan, is that I was only there for 3 months. And Everton's a really special place. And when I try to explain European soccer or international soccer to people, they can't understand it unless they get to experience it the way your wife did. I was there 3 months. From the minute I walked through the door, and my agent is over there, he'll attest to this. I walked into the stadium at halftime. For the first time ever, I showed up in my beanie, walked through the stadium, and everybody was, Landon, welcome, Landon, welcome, Landon, welcome. So great to have. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I haven't even stepped on the field, and they're making me feel like part of the team. And from then I was like, I'm not letting these people down. Right. So like, I'm going to go run through a wall to make sure I keep these people on my side. And a club like that, it's been around for a century. It means so much to them, and you don't want to let them down.
So then did you like Ted Lasso or think it was corny?
No, I love Ted Lasso.
Okay.
My wife and I watched it. We loved it. I mean, yes, it's corny, but it was fun to watch. It's entertaining. They did a great job.
When we talk about personal stories, we got your book right here.
We do.
Talk about that process.
It's an interesting process. It's a long process. It is really enjoyable. For me, the goal was I read a lot, and I've read a lot of sports memoirs.
You're doing my job for me. I was going to ask you some of your favorites. Like,
yeah, so the
Agassiz is
the inspiration is Agassiz, right? And there's really no other ones really, because candidly, it ends up being like a chronological timeline of what happened in their career. And I'm like, I've watched that. I don't need that. This is, yes, there's soccer in it, but this is not a soccer story. I grew up in a 900 square foot home with a single mom who was a special ed teacher. We were, by American standards, very poor. Fish sticks and hot dogs and condensed milk, and that was our dinners every night. And my dad wasn't around. So in some ways, it's a miracle that I'm sitting here with you today. In other ways, when you read sports stories or you learn about people, there had to be something that was driving them. And for me, it was subconscious for most of my life, trying to find and get attention that my dad wasn't giving me. And so I was like, every time I scored a goal at 8 years old, I have goosebumps. I would feel the adulation and the adoration of the people on the sidelines and the parents. And I was like, oh, I'm accepted, I'm loved, I'm wanted. And I was wanting that from my dad. And so this is a story about when you were watching goals on TV, what was really going on behind the scenes, including, sadly, long bouts with depression as well and dealing with mental health issues.
Yeah, really important.
Yeah.
You mentioned Agassi's book, Open, which is like the standard. I'll give you one more I like, which is Dennis Rodman's book.
Really?
It's called Bad as I Want to Be.
Cool.
One of my favorite sports memoirs.
Very candid.
Oh, yeah. Has to be, right? If you're going to do one of these.
That's my thing. It's like, if you're going to do it, well, I don't need to do it. I don't need money or fame or attention. If you're going to do it, be candid and real, that in a way that hopefully can help people. And for me, it's single moms who resonate with, people who are estranged from parents. I, at 25, flew to Nashville to see my dad. I hadn't spoken to him in 5 years, and went and told him through lots of therapy that I forgive him and I'm able to move on. My dad passed away 4 months ago, and I'm so grateful that I had that time with him instead of waiting till his deathbed to say, gosh, I forgive you, Dad. You know, I was able to do that along the way. So as long as there's candor, I think there's a lot that people can relate to. And that's the reason for me to write the book. So I'm going to read Rodman's now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I'll finish this. I
Great.
started a week ago.
Okay, great.
I got a couple more for you.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about youth sports.
Oh,
You mentioned Greg Olson, who has kind of made that his big thing too, Youth Inc. Obviously for soccer, I mean, any sport, we had Paul Rabel in here who started his lacrosse league, but the youth level for soccer is like the most important thing, the pipeline. And I know you've made that a big issue for you, is investing in youth sports.
This will be, well, I'm on the way. So this is becoming...
Supporting.
Yeah, this is going to be by far the most important thing I do in the sport. And it's what I'm really passionate. And I've always been passionate about it, but it hit me in the face 2 weeks ago with my own son, my 8-year-old. He's been on a team, big club in San Diego, for 2 years. These kids, Dan, love each other. I mean, they are brothers. They're hanging out all the time. It has brought my son so much joy. And the club recently, because they wanted to get bigger and faster and stronger, my kid's little, about 4 or 5 of the younger kids, smaller kids, are now getting moved down a team, and they're bringing in these bigger, these are
The ringers.
These are 8-year-olds. And I called the people and I said, what are you guys doing? I was crying in bed with my son and my wife 2 weeks ago, telling him he was now on the B team and that he's not going to be with his friends. And we're trying to couch it like, this will be great for you. You'll play more. And he just said to me, this broke my heart. He said, I just want to play with my friends. And it broke my heart. And so now I'm like, okay, here we go. I'm changing this because this is BS. You can't do that. If they're 16, I get it. They're, whatever. They're 8 years old. And now he's going to fall out of love with the game a little bit because of this. And that's not worth it. So thanks for asking.
I guess not the retort, but the other side of that is that you look at phenoms. I mean, you look at Tiger Woods, right? Like people who started playing. How old were you when you started playing soccer?
Well, competitive or I played at the time I could walk. My older brother was playing with me. So, but competitive, like 5 years old playing rec league and all that.
So people point, especially around the time of the Olympics, to athletes who started at 3.
Yep.
It's crazy. And so, they would say if you think you can identify at that age, then it has to get so intense and serious. I mean, to your point, it gets so intense now at such a young age.
Let me tell you, this is only vis-a-vis soccer. There was a massive study done 5 years ago, 7 years ago. There's a German study. The correlation between the best 12-year-olds and whether or not they become professionals. You know what the correlation was? 0. There was a 0 correlation. So That's at 12. Now, maybe at 14, it changes a little. Maybe at 16, it definitely changes. At 18, for sure, it changes. But these kids are 8 years old. So my thing is make sure they love the sport first and foremost, and then make sure they're getting better. Throw the winning and throw all that crap out the window. When they get older, yes, I agree. But these are 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 6-year-olds. We need to stop. It's not worth it. The other side of your coin is, yes, for the Tigers and Serenas, there are millions of kids that are falling out of love with the sport, quitting at 13, 14 because they don't want to deal with their parents yelling or the coaches or the pressure. And that's not good for the sport. I'm trying to build soccer. I don't want to lose. If my kids are falling out of love with it, imagine what the rest of the country's dealing with.
I hope a call from Landon Donovan gets attention from the coach.
Well, you'd be surprised. I had long conversations and they're like, oh, we need the... And I'm like, okay, you know what?
Oh, wow.
I'm done with you.
Crazy.
So the retort to that is, then do it yourself, right? Like find a way to change this whole thing. And if it takes the rest of my life, it's what I'm going to be dedicated to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about investments. What are you not in that you want to be? I mean, do you want to become a part owner in a
Good
different
question.
sports franchise?
NWSL probably. I think if in the right MLS club with the right people, that would be enjoyable. We all want to be in the NFL, but I don't think that's happening. What would you say? What do you think are
Personally,
good investments? Yeah.
I'd love to own a piece of the Red Sox. I mean,
There you go.
it's not going to happen,
Good luck.
but you never know. Maybe I should start playing
Or the Patriots.
semi-pro sport. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just surprised that Brady didn't go with the Pats, or I guess that wasn't easy. But you would think
The thing
with the
is-
relationship with Kraft.
Correct. And look, it's not always easy. Who knows if the Crafts had any interest in that or, so it's business.
Let's end on this. We've talked a little bit about, life experience. What's your best advice, either that you've gotten from someone else or that you would give out? Business, career, life?
Good question. Well, the best advice for my career from my mom was always, because my mom, she didn't know a thing about soccer or sports. She would always say to me, if you're not enjoying it, don't do it. And I was like, it sounds kind of simple. And you're like, but there were many times during my career where I was like, I'm not really enjoying it right now. And I had to take a deep look inside and say, okay, if I'm not enjoying it, I probably shouldn't do it. So I had to make sure I was finding joy the whole way. And that evolved throughout time. But if you're not enjoying something, look, we all have jobs and we have to work and provide. But as kids, if you're not enjoying it, we don't enjoy homework. We have to do homework. But if it's something that's elective, if you're not enjoying it, what are you doing? Right? So that always stuck with me.
Have you gotten to the point where you can enjoy this?
Enjoy what?
Interviews, media.
Yes. I actually love it. And I hated it during my career because there's just one more thing to do. I love it because I love the sport. I love talking about the sport. I'm an ambassador for the sport and I want to grow the sport. So if you can do that in an eloquent way, which sometimes I can, I think it helps the sport.
I think you have.
Thanks.
Good chat.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Loved it.
Thank you.